Yet before the police shot him.
He got about 4 or 5 feet maybe, and the cop had grabbed him and turned him, started shooting.
Paul died of a gunshot wound to the neck. Leah and Lisa believe the death of their sons could be part of a disturbing trend within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. For decades, it has been alleged that the department is riddled with deputy gangs. Both mothers have filed lawsuits against the deputies, the Sheriff's Department, and the County of LA.
They have initiations, and in order for them to become a prospect, their thing is they have to kill somebody.
I just feel like my son was a strike for that officer that night. That's what I really believe.
Investigations by the Office of the former district attorney concluded that deputies Rojas and Perez acted in lawful self-defense and defense of others when they used deadly force against Anthony Vargas, and that Deputy Saavedra acted lawfully in self-defense when he used deadly force against Paul Rea. Are there gangs within the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department?
They operate as a gang. They commit crimes. They assault people.
In an exclusive interview with CBS News, current deputies confirmed the existence of the Bandidos, a gang comprised of mostly Latino deputies that serve predominantly African American and Latino neighborhoods.
It's based out of East LA, but members that have become Banditos in East LA have been promoted and they've spread all over the county.
These deputies do not want to be identified for fear of reprisal. CBS News has agreed to blur their faces and substitute their voices. What are the benefits of joining the gang?
The benefits will be like any other street gang. It's power, money.
How do they identify themselves?
With a tattoo.
Is there an initiation process to join the gang?
You could say that. They could go from you getting a shooting or, they do anything for these guys.
You said they get shootings. What do you mean by that?
If you get in a shooting, that's a definite brownie point.
And according to these deputies, to justify those shootings, they plant weapons on the people they stop.
There's been multiple occasions where they say, hey, we got a guy that has a gun and he's running from us. In reality, that person never had a gun. And they would say, oh, it was a phantom gun. It was something that really wasn't there.
So you have personally witnessed that?
Yes.
We have heard that sometimes they arrest someone for no reason and then try to find a crime to accuse them of.
It's called working backwards. You make the detention first, then you figure out legally how you can make that detention.
A lot of these officers are Latinos, so why are they targeting other Latinos? Is it racial profiling? Self-loathing?
They do racial profile. It's like Latino gangs. They target other young Latinos.
Some of the parents accuse members of the Bandidos of using part of this as an initiation ritual. Is that true?
Yes.
Paul Rea was shot by LA Sheriff Deputy Hector Saavedra Soto. Is he a prospect for the Bandidos?
Yes, he is.
He's a prospect.
Anthony Vargas was shot by Sheriff Deputy Nicholas Perez and Sheriff Deputy Jonathan Rojas. Are they also part of the Bandidos gang or prospects for the Bandidos?
Prospects? Yes.
They're prospects.
How do you know they were prospects?
Just personal conversations with them, and them saying that was one of their main goals, to be a part of this gang.
If you refuse to comply with their demands to join the gang, what happens?
They stop giving you backup, which is very dangerous. They ignore you. The Banditos believe they can get away with anything, and they're not going to have any type of consequences for their actions.
No one is above the law.
Newly elected LA County District Attorney George Gascon says he is committed to upholding the law.
We take this allegation seriously, and if in fact we believe that there is criminal activity within the sheriff's department, and then we'll deal accordingly.
The Monterosa sisters know all too well the pain of losing a loved one at the hands of law enforcement officers. What was your brother Sean like?
He just would walk into the room and he would just light the whole room up. And Sean's last text message to Michelle and I to sign the petition for George Floyd.
On June 2nd, 2020, the Vallejo Police Department in Northern California received reports of a Walgreens being vandalized. What was Sean doing at the parking lot where he was shot?
So till this day, we don't know specifically what he was there for or who he was with, but That night, we got a phone call from some girl Sean was talking to, hysterically crying, saying that Sean was murdered.
As several patrol and unmarked cars arrived at the Walgreens the night of the shooting, they encountered 21-year-old Sean Monterrosa in the parking lot. According to the complaint, Sean was on his knees with his hands being raised above his waist, with no object in his hands.
Jarrett Ton was in the backseat of the pickup truck. Before the car had even stopped, he picked up his AR-15 and shot through the windshield 5 times. And unfortunately, it struck my brother in the neck and out of the head. So my brother was lifeless instantly.
The officers exit the vehicle and begin to question whether Sean had a gun.
What do you point at us? I don't know, man.
Did he own a gun?
No.
It turned out to be a hammer still in his pocket. On July 15, 2020, Vallejo city officials confirmed that the police vehicle involved in the Monterrosa shooting was placed back into service without approval from the city attorney or police chief, and that the windshield was destroyed. The family has filed a lawsuit against the city of Vallejo and officers Jarrett Ton for damages, violation of civil rights, and wrongful death. The investigation into the shooting is ongoing.
This is the first time you met the group of moms. Did you feel some type of bond with them?
We're part of this big family no one wants to be a part of. And it hurts to see mothers reopening those wounds.
Meanwhile, the families vowed to never stop seeking justice for their loved ones.
I'm going to go out fighting for Sean and all the other families.
Justice would have been having my brother here.
I will keep fighting till my last breath, but I do not have no hope in this justice system. I don't.
Justice for me is a whole long list. Because not only is it these officers being held accountable for homicide, for a murder, it's everybody else involved. I want the whole system cleaned out.
A federal grand jury investigation has been convened into the alleged deputy gangs within the LASD. Sheriff Alex Villanueva declined to comment to CBS News, but has publicly stated that there is scant evidence of deputy gangs and that he has instituted a policy of zero tolerance for any deputy violence. The deputies in the Andres Guardado shooting have not been found to be at fault in that shooting, but have been relieved of duty stemming from another case. In response to the lawsuits, deputies Rojas, Perez, and Saavedra deny being...
This is a prime example of problems with media bias in this country. On the left, you have over-reporting of the police brutality narrative, which is done, in my view, purposely for profit. It's pandering to the audience. So you over-report on it, make it seem like it's something more than it is. But simply over-reporting on something and making it seem like it's bigger than it is doesn't mean it's not a big deal. For example, let's just say that there is a police officer who is part of the NYPD who is going around raping children, and the news reports it as if it's a big scandal, and there's a bunch of cops doing it, or the whole department is corrupted or something like that, when it's really just one cop. But again, just because it's not as big as the news is making it out to be doesn't mean it's not bad. I mean, a police officer going around raping a bunch of kids, that's pretty bad, right? We don't need to have a whole bunch of cops doing it before it's like it's a big deal. So just because the left-wing media may over-report and make the police brutality thing seem to be bigger than it is, doesn't mean it's not a big deal. All it means is it's not necessarily on the level at which they present it to be. But the problem is, then you look on the other side. So you look at conservative media, you watch them, and they do the opposite. They underreport on it. So they give you a perception that it's smaller than it actually is. It's insignificant. Don't worry about it. It's just the left-wing media. The cops are doing really good. It is really rare that these things happen. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it. What are you saying? There's no... No, of course we know there's brutality. It's rare. Very, very rare. Overwhelming majority of the cops are good cops. And if you don't... if you follow the instructions... Right? These are rich elites who are saying this. Crowder, Shapiro, Tim Pool. These guys are making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month, living in mansions. They don't know the struggle that minorities like in this story are going through, and what situations that's going on in terms of corruption in their police department. They don't know, they don't care, right? So you have half the country that believes things are worse than they are, and you have the other half who doesn't recognize that there actually is a serious problem because they're being told, oh, the left is just this, and the left, right? You take an ounce of truth and you go a mile with it. You point out that the left over-reports on it, but then you go so far in on that narrative that you end up doing the opposite. Nothing to see here, folks. Clearly there is something to see here. And I can say that as a person who has been a victim of police brutality. Now, I've never been in the hospital. Fortunately, what I've dealt with is nothing at all compared to what a lot of other people have to deal with. But if someone like me, career professional, well-spoken and polite, even to cops who are disrespecting me and putting my life in danger, if it happens to me, I guarantee you, it is a significant problem in this country that needs to be addressed. Doesn't matter that it may not be what the left-wing media presents it to be. It's a serious problem. Because I know the average person is not going to be as polite and respectful as I have always been with cops when presented with the behavior that I've experienced. So what's going to happen when somebody else who doesn't have the same level of discipline that I do, what's going to happen when their life gets put in danger? This is the Baby Channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.